Welcome everyone to How to Integrate FME with Databricks and why you'll want to. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by both our guest speaker, Martin and Matt. I will pass things over to Martin to introduce himself.
Yes, my name is Martin Koch, as it says on the slide. My official job title is Geospatial Evangelist, the only role in Tensing and Avineon-Tensing where you can't apply for, but you get asked. And actually, in that role, I try to help my colleagues excel with the FME platform at our customers, and yeah, that's the main thing I do. And that's why I also have the time to experiment with things like Databricks I'm going to present on today. So, thank you.
Yeah, my name is Matt. I don't have a cool job title like that. I think I need to make one up or work with someone to come up with a better one, but I'm a technical support specialist here at Safe Software.
Okay, fantastic. And I'll also note that we do have Dan Minnie joining us on the back end here today, supporting us with questions. So if you do have any questions during the webinar, please do drop those into the questions tab. If you are newer to join one of our webinars, we do have the help button. If you're experiencing any audio issues or video issues, you can click that and there is 4 simple steps to take. We have the react button. I see some people already were using that. So share your reactions with us during the webinar. We love to see those. We do have a poll very shortly here, so keep an eye on that polls tab, and we will be launching that soon. Questions. We're going to be having questions at the end of the webinar, live questions, as well as Dan is supporting on the questions panel today. So definitely do get your questions in about anything Databricks or anything as we present here today as we go along. And then the chat, keep letting us know where you are joining us from today. All right, if you would like to download the slide deck and follow along live, you can click that download button on the top right. Fantastic. In terms of our agenda today, the star of the show, Martin, he is going to be taking us through the bulk here. But before we pass things over to Martin, Matt will be kicking us off with an introduction to both the topic of Databricks and FME, and then we'll be handing things over to Martin for Avineon-Tensing, another brief overview of Databricks there, as well as why using FME with Databricks. He's going to be providing us with some examples, as well as the conclusion from there. And then I'll be taking you through some resources and next steps so that you can get started. We have some awesome Databricks resources. And then from there, we will have that question period. All right, awesome. So at this point, maybe we can do this poll all together here. So I'll launch that over in the polls tab. We'd love to know where you are at in your Databricks journey. And I did make it so you can select multiple in case maybe you're exploring and haven't used it yet. For instance, we'll see. We'll give everyone a moment there to place their vote. Awesome. It looks like a lot of opportunity for learning today. Most people have placed their votes now, so we can take a look over those results here together. About half have never used it, and another quarter are in the exploration stage. Fantastic. All right, thanks everyone for letting us know. That definitely is some great insights for here as we present. Okay. Yeah, so at this point, we'll pass the baton over to Matt, and Martin and I will go off the stage here. And Matt can take us through our introduction.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Yeah, just going to go through a brief introduction here before handing it to Martin to do some cool demos and dive into the topics more. But really what we're here for today is to get more out of Databricks and FME when using them together. So FME can help simplify data integration, automate complex workflows, and bring spatial capabilities into your Databricks environment without coding. So FME can integrate your systems with Databricks, and we'll go into more details later in the webinar on that. But at a high level, for example, we can help process spatial data, as mentioned earlier. FME can help validate and enrich data before it goes into Databricks. You could also use FME to help control access to data in Databricks through FME Flow web front end or APIs built using FME Flow, which Martin will talk about more later. So FME can be that layer between Databricks and your end users who need to add data to it or consume data from it. And I assume a lot of us have used FME, but maybe not so much Databricks. But if you're new to FME as well, just a quick overview of our platform. So one platform, 3 technologies, as you see here. The first one on the far left is FME Form, and that's a desktop application that's used to author your ETL workflows. It has a visual canvas. You add, your database readers and writers and connectors and different transformers to it to build those workflows to move data back and forth and transform it along the way. And then those workflows can be published to FME Flow, which is the web-facing side of the product, and runs on a web server, accessible through a web browser, and users can do cool things with those workflows, like build web apps out of them or build larger workflow orchestrations, chaining multiple together and triggering them off events like schedules or webhooks and that kind of thing. So we, being a web application, you can host that yourself. We provide the web server, everything you need to host yourself. We can also host that for you, though, in our Flow hosted cloud. And then we also now have FME Realize, which is a whole new way to experience your data through AR. This was just introduced at the peak a couple of weeks ago, and we have a webinar coming up on May 28th to learn more about it. And yeah, so FME, we support over 500 different data types now. We're always looking to expand on what we support and constantly enriching support for new and evolving formats as customers begin to use them. And so, yeah, I just wanted to keep that intro brief, talk a little bit about Databricks and FME, and I will pass it over to Martin now.
Thanks, Matt, for the introduction. I need to switch on screen sharing here, so let's pray for to the demo gods that all goes right. And here, yeah, as I said, thanks for the introduction. Avineon-Tensing, we are here in Europe a very service provider on the FME platform, so I won't talk too much onto that. My goal for today actually is to get you inspired, if you have to deal with Databricks, to use FME to make your life a little bit easier. That's not the goal of this presentation, actually. As this presentation also is highly spiked with my personal opinion, I thought it wise to sort of introduce myself a little bit more. When I was 12 years old, I sold my slot car racing track and bought a very tiny home computer to join the home computer boom in the early 90s. So eventually I graduated in forest ecology and forest management, simulating tree growth on a VAX system. Yeah, of course, with such a graduation, you end up being a GIS professional. I started at a very small firm where I built my first spatial enabled database on some scrap hardware which was lying in the hallway. So eventually I drove around rack servers to those dark and noisy places called co-location stations. And yeah, today I happily enjoy the infrastructure as code as a service world. As a GIS professional, I mostly did move and manipulate data around. I started off using SQL for that. Then I moved to Python, and eventually I discovered the FME platform to do everything. And I sort of experienced the same level of increased convenience on both these two trajectories I've been through in my life. Yeah, Databricks. It's sort of, I don't know how it's on your side of the pond, but here is the buzzword I hear at almost every customer, where some part of IT policy makers are considering Databricks, are asking, can we use Databricks, investigating to move to Databricks. It really is the highly buzzing data transformation platform currently. Where I work, and we as Tensing, we are often working at those, let's say, departments who are responsible for plotting on the map when the inspector last visited the site, or they have to harvest the data from some software as a service platform to get it in-house. My talk is more or less from that point of view, that little department within an organization which is confronted with the question, can we move to Databricks? What do we need if we want to move to Databricks? Or we are going to move to Databricks, and adapt your working processes. So that's my point of view. And let's first start with Databricks. What is actually Databricks? They say we are the unified platform for data analytics and AI. Well, on the peak of data, I could say this could just as well be a poster for the peak of data. And now, yeah, this could just as well be FME from my point of view. So let's go a little bit further. What does Databricks also say about themselves? They say simplify ETL, data warehousing, governance, and AI. Here I have been using tape emulation on the mainframe and moving data objects from one virtual tape to another. So I think everything is simplifying ETL compared to that. So this completely, totally meaningless statement is. Sorry. Let's see. But so what is it actually? It's a platform consists of a couple of components. First, there's the Apache Spark framework, which provides compute to things. The Apache Spark framework is wonderful at providing compute to things which need compute power. It's wonderful. And it also provides the input and output possibilities you have. And you can extend on that using your own Python modules, or you can write Java to expand on the basic capabilities of the Spark platform. Databricks does its data modeling using SQL. dbt is sort of SQL. So it uses SQL for modeling the data. And they also have things like real-time pipelines. These real-time pipelines, they mainly consist of these delta live tables. And delta live tables are really magic, which means you have your files. And because of the metadata structure around it, you have the asset transactionality of your relational database, without having a real relational database running on a server. So it's really, this, as I said, it's magic. And the pipeline aspect really comes from that you have notebooks, which is in the bottom row, which you can schedule, but we'll get to that later. I will show some of that as well. So you're interfacing what you're doing on Databricks, you do with those notebooks. And I don't know, many people probably have seen a data scientist or are data scientists themselves and have these two Python notebooks. You've got a web interface, you can paste code snippets, press Ctrl Enter and see if they run, and you get the output in a frame underneath, and you can go to the next frame. And that's how you go through your data analysis and see what the results are. So that's sort of the building blocks of Databricks. And this is also very quickly in the manuals, you see this is so beautiful. You got 3 simple steps and you're from raw chaotic data into the nirvana of scored records, the unicorn data, as Don used to call it, of the scored records. Yeah, it sounds wonderful, yeah. But what actually, when you start working with it, you're working in Python. Of course, everybody talks about the unstructured data they can process. Well, if you want to do something with data, you first need to define the structure. And in Databricks, you do that using Python and write down the structure of your CSV file, hard-coded in a notebook frame. But very quickly, you start, I just pasted this in, these are just snippets from some tutorials. Very quickly, you also start using, for instance, decorators. And I don't really understand decorators in Python. I use them, I know how to use them, but it really means you quite quickly need to be a good programmer, not just pasting snippets from ChatGPT, but really know what you're doing when you're programming. What it means if you duplicate a data frame or you extend on a data frame. You can read in Excel files if you know where they are and how they are called. I mean, and this also indicates every tutorial, everything in Databricks assumes that the data is on some blob storage, which it can access. So here you can access an Excel file which is on blob storage and then use that. I have to slot this in. If you have some spatial component in your data frame, this is sort of how you look at it in the environment in which you build your data transformation. So it's, yeah, this is the Netherlands, by the way, probably many people will have recognized it. And last, if you build all those notebooks, you can sort of chain them together and schedule them. And this is the way they build those pipelines. You can have those notebooks, you can pass parameters around, and yeah, I'm not a big fan of this personally. So this is the building blocks of Databricks, and actually, on the one side, if you are a data scientist using your Python notebooks, this is heaven. I mean, I think this is also dreamt up by some people. Using that, I think, what if we had limitless possibilities? What would we build for a platform? So it's ideal for that. And of course, with those robust building blocks like this Spark and everything, you can really build the great data integrations. I mean, for instance, if you want to track all the ins and outs on an airport in near real time and do modeling on it to predict what will happen the next half hour, you can build that with these modules very well. But as said, then you need to have a team of good programmers and some development culture within your company to maintain the necessary knowledge to be able to maintain the whole application. And yeah, let's say you need 10 programmers, you know, the guys with the bands for the obscure conferences about some open source thingy, and they drink the special coffee. Those people, you need to have a couple of them to really build yourself something like this, the light blue, an application. Yeah, and applications need integration. So if you build this, and then somebody suddenly comes out, yeah, I always get my data in Excel, and I want to ingest it in this data lakehouse. I mean, yeah, probably it can be typed. Yeah. Or if you want to have, if it has a spatial component and you need to do something with it, but then it really becomes scary. So we got FME, our flexible low-code platform for all your application integrations. Because in the heart, there's nothing wrong with Databricks, but when you've built this, you probably have all kinds of snippets on the end where FME can be very useful to make the life much more convenient. And therefore, I made some examples. Actually, simply, I focused on simple things. Assuming you got some Databricks analysis, you got some data there, you got some model built there, and I couldn't use real-world examples because of all kinds of reasons, so I mimicked that by using some open source data from the Netherlands to show you what can be done. And first, actually, the first demo, let's see, oh yeah, and just for the sport, I've used DuckDB. And there's also something in this Databricks. DuckDB can read Delta Lake tables. So I was thinking, can I read those Databricks Delta Lake tables without firing up Databricks by just using DuckDB from my FME Flow instance, which is somewhere completely on a different location. Just for the sport of it, I used DuckDB. Because with the first example really also triggered my presentation topic actually. It was from some colleagues who were working at a customer which had an external firm build a Databricks modeling. They have tons of assets which are constantly sending sensor data, which is harvested and put through Databricks into a maintenance prediction model, all top notch. I mean, no problem with that. But then my colleagues were in a team which was responsible for distributing the model results to different departments. And therefore, they had to turn on Databricks and run all kinds of notebooks that really didn't understand how they worked and what they were doing. And they also couldn't maintain it. And there was no interface to it. So departments had to ask for the data, and then they have to file this all manually and then get the data, not really in a very nice format. So then I thought, it can't be true. You can simply build a web app for that using FME. Of course, you don't want everybody to access your data, so you can nicely put it behind your Azure ID account. And well, I say we want a snippet of the data. By the way, this is just census data from the Netherlands. I put it in Databricks, There are long rows of 105 columns for every year, the amount of people for every municipality, the big table. And then you can simply say for 2 municipalities, open it in an Excel sheet. And you see I also pivoted the table because that's much easier to comprehend. And yeah, we got notes, shut up Siri. But as municipalities are a spatial component, you can also, of course, draw a map in FME. You can confirm and run it. Yes, all right. And you have much more municipalities now. But just to show that's quite easy, I don't even need to start Databricks. The data is in Databricks. I access it, pivot it, put it in Excel, and make it downloadable. Now, actually, we got data out of Databricks for humans, for a Homo sapiens, for a human being. We can also, of course, use an application to get data from Databricks. So for this demonstration, I put a flood risk model for the Netherlands consisting of 56 million data points. And assume that you are an asset maintainer and maintain your assets in ArcGIS Online. And when you enter a new asset, you want to have some model prediction results added to the attributes of this asset. So your assets are in this case just plots of land. You need to make it simple. And you can draw in a new asset. You'll see one asset already has the averages for that plot. I run the webhook trigger from ArcGIS Online triggers this automation on flow, which collects the data, and then we got some model results for the average risk for flooding is this. And you can also see, of course, on which data this prediction is based. You see this all to the south where the river is. It's not very surprising, but it works. And that's how you expose your Databricks data to ArcGIS Online. Again, without starting your data, without having constantly your Databricks running. Now we got data out of Databricks. We now get the Excel file. Because I work at a large finance company and they buy very expensive data, regional economic development predictions for all over the world, and the data comes in Excel sheets. And those Excel sheets are nicely laid out for human consumption. So you can scroll through the Excel sheets, there are headers and filters and whatever. But of course, you don't want to only look at it, you want to process it as well. So you can use FME to convert this laid out spreadsheet again into simply sensible table data and put it in Databricks. So here I got a classic example. This is grain production in the Netherlands, which also, as you saw, has this header and footer for everything. Now, again, you don't want everybody to upload your data, so you upload it, run it, and it's uploaded. You can immediately tell the user that it went well, or because you don't, of course, you want to do some validation, and immediately tell the validation results to the user. Yeah, try that in Databricks. Just immediate response. Yeah, you've done it again. Or you can, of course, do all kinds of analysis. You probably everyone in the group will have some creative idea how to do that. Well, now if you uploaded those Parquet files to the blob storage, and this is how Databricks works. It needs data on blob storage, and then it can ingest it. It can ingest that in near real time, or it can ingest that on schedule, or just whenever you want. So at this moment, I just ran that ingestion script manually, and now you can see I got the latest data in there. Now, right. So if we can get data out and put data in, that almost sounds like a REST API, yeah? Because let's say you have a field booking application where people collect data in the field, or they need some data on the mobile device. yeah, you need rest. And of course, you could start with importing Spring Boot in your Pommel XML and then start typing away in Java, or you can use FME for that. And one side note why you might really want this, something like this, is that in Databricks, the access control is not like you know from your relational database system. You can give access to a workspace, which is not something like our workspaces, but like an environment. And when you've got access to the environment, you can do everything. And not like, let's say, modern things like Snowflake, where you can give groups access or no access to even columns in tables. So you need something in front of your data if you want to distribute it through your environment and give people access to it. And having an API is, I think, a wonderful way of doing that. So this demo I built before 2025.1, so I haven't used the data virtualization framework, which is the wonderful new feature in FME Flow for this year, I think, and for next year probably. But still the old way. I just queried it, I uploaded some data, I can now process that I upload, which is, you say, is probably normally constantly happening in the background. I can query the things I just uploaded and it should work. Yes. Yeah, you see here the new predictions for the 21st and the 22nd century are now loaded in. I got some more predictions, so I need to edit something. The corn estimates have changed. Yeah. And yeah, now we see it. And of course, yeah, when I look at it, I need the delete function as well, so I can now delete again those predictions. They'll probably be gone again. That's the idea. Actually, you see, we now some manual steps happening, and people ask me, what if I use the FME Databricks writer, which is also part of the FME package. If you look closely at the logging, firstly, your Databricks has to be running. So you have to have compute running if you want to use the Databricks writer in FME. And then in the logging, you also see that FME uploads a Parquet file and then does a command telling to ingest that Parquet file into the table you want to write to. So it's actually the same as I'm doing here manually. And it comes to my conclusion. Well, in my demos, I focused on really putting data on Databricks and getting data out of Databricks. So let's say the easy convenience things on the outside. There are a lot of more possibilities how you can use FME together with Databricks, which are far more technical. For instance, using FME to do the spatial analytics, which Databricks is lacking. And I could do a whole video on that, because I did something similar on Snowflake in the beginnings. But I said, even for these small things, if your company decides to go to Databricks, make sure they keep the FME subscription, because you're definitely going to need it. Well, I said here as well. Right. Thank you. And that probably now met Elizabeth, is one of you going to take over now?
Yeah, thanks so much, Martin. Just want to give a huge thank you for your time joining us and sharing today's content with the audience.
Yeah, I hope people have a lot of questions. I expect them to have a lot of questions, so I hope that I'm open for any. Yeah.
Fantastic. And we will be getting to our question period in just a couple minutes here. So please, if you do have any questions top of mind for Martin, drop those into the questions tab. It does look promising. It looks like we've gotten quite a handful, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so
Right.
before we get to questions, I'll just take us through a little bit of wrap up here. Just to start off, if you are newer to us here at Safe Software, we operate in over 128 countries with 25,000 plus organizations worldwide and 200,000 users. And we have a fantastic network of partners offering services around the world, including Avineon-Tensing and Martin's team. In terms of resources to help you get started, and Matt, I'll probably invite you to feel free to chime in on this one, but I know we have a central article that is a great place to get started with next steps here for folks looking to try out Databricks and FME themselves.
Yeah, there's a landing page there, and then the articles on that landing page created by Dan, who's helping out with our QA today. There's also video on getting started. It's a little bit outdated. It's always hard to keep videos up to date in that it talks about basic authentication. So Databricks used to support username, password, and they don't anymore. They do support OAuth and personal access tokens. So we offer those as authentication methods.
I just dropped that article in the chat as well in case anyone wants to save that or bookmark it as a next step. And then in terms of our other resources, we're all about free resources here at SAFE. We have our FME Academy, where we host free instructor-led training. And then we also have our knowledge base. You can check out how-tos and different articles there as well. And then our webinars. We have lots of upcoming ones. We actually just were taking a look at our July to September calendar as well as a team here. So lots and lots on the horizon coming, but then also lots of on-demand webinars. So if you're searching for a specific topic, yeah, feel free to use that search bar. It's quite handy. Next steps to take here, we'd love to help you get started. If you want to chat anything data with us, info@safe.com, or learn more about Martin's services. I know we had his email up on the screen earlier as well. I think, Martin, you indicated you're happy if anyone wants to reach out to you directly. Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, if you have an honest question, then really, I mean, that's also for me the way to learn to. So I'm open for anything. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, and then we also have our FME Accelerator course. If you are just newer to FME or learning the basics, it's 90 minutes and free of charge. No downloads or anything required. And our community badge code. So if you're a member of our community and you claim these badges, I will drop that code in the chat now as well. And if you aren't a member of our community, it's a great place to both network with other users alike or experts as well. There's forum opportunities there. So lots of chatter always happening on the community with any challenges you might be facing and to gain solutions to those from our community. All right. And just once again, a huge thank you, Martin, for your time joining us here this evening for you, I suppose, and Matt as well for your time in presenting. And with that, we do have a solid 20 minutes here for questions. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
We can take a look at the questions tab here together. And thanks, Dan, as well, for, despite the jet lag, I think Dan just got back from a trip. So thanks, Dan, for your help in answering questions this morning as well.
Let's see. I see here from the data with the delta table, the geospatial, the geospatial types. You actually use GeoPandas, and you can put a lot of things in there, like the areas, the lines, and the points. And as you can extend with all Python frameworks, you could even do point clouds in there. But the thing is, you need to program that in order. You're actually working in Python, and you can store it in a GeoPK file. So you can, in theory, do everything. Is it practical? I doubt so. Does that answer the question? If I start use Databricks Reader and Writer, then yes, I have. I just wanted to challenge myself and not start up a database compute, actually to see if it was possible to simply read the Delta Lake tables a different way. Currently only supports Google. I don't know the Google Cloud. I don't know. I don't use that. Oh yeah, it's correct.
A webinar on that too. I might drop that link in the chat.
What?
We did have a Google Cloud webinar recently, so I might drop that link in the chat in case it's useful for that attendee as well.
Yes, ArcGIS Online. No, simply, I read Databricks and I wrote it to a feature service, and I have my map updating every minute, so that makes it. And I read the Databricks astonishingly fast with that DuckDB. I mean, I said 65 million records, and I queried to about 6,000 in a couple of seconds from my laptop. So, and then just make a geometry right to a feature service, and you see it. Go on cloud, and write it to use or infinite mount exceptions. That Oreo, I don't know. Also already answered. Which are the unanswered questions? We've done a great job all there on the team.
Yeah, and Martin, feel free. Like, we're welcome to elaborate or highlight any questions that might be popular for the group. Yeah,
there was something which came up on UC, and they said I was sort of inspired to this talk because of a certain problem which colleagues of mine encountered. But in the end of my UC presentation, somebody asked, yeah, can I use FME to do spatial in Databricks? And that reminded me, in the early days of Snowflake, there was no support for spatial yet in Snowflake. And then together with SAFE, from Tensing and SAFE, we together collaborated in first showing Snowflake the importance of spatial by integrating FME Flow and Snowflake by passing data from Snowflake to FME Flow, processing it on Flow, and then pushing back the data, the results to Snowflake, so you could have spatial integration on your tables with some external functions they were called. And I was thinking, I could do the same thing in Databricks, just have some REST functionality where you say, hey, calculate this for me on this table or with this data, and then call that REST endpoints from your Python code and do very complex spatial analysis without having to dive into some obscure Python extension, but keeping within your beloved local platform. So that would be my next topic. Yeah. Anyone with me still? Oh, yeah.
One question that kind of confused me, and it's more just terminology with Databricks, is that we work with a lot of different formats, and just dabble with Databricks here and there, but the difference between Delta Lake tables and Delta Live tables.
You got the Delta Lake. I mean, the Delta Lake is of course an abstract thing. Yeah, the data lake is an abstract thing, and then you got, of course, in that you can have tables, and that's what you start off. You started with a Parquet file, and you simply open that as a table. And the Delta Live tables are the magic where you, upon a Parquet file, for instance, or a CSV file, they have some metadata framework, and I don't know how it works, but they partition those things, and then you have your asset transactions and history all on a set of CSV files. Because of the Delta Live table framework, and it's really is magic. But that's not something which is only for Databricks. And that's also the reason why DuckDB can also work with Delta Live tables. It's just so, and data lake is thing where all the raw data is sort of stored, the box. So that's the words are quite similar, but they're completely different. They only join together where you go from a Delta Lake table to a Delta Live table. That's sort of my comprehension of the subject when I read through all the manuals.
Yeah, that sort of aligns with what I was reading. Like Delta Live tables are almost more of a framework.
Yeah, it's DuckDB supports it just as well.
Yeah, thank you. Just check in the chat to see, are the question panel, to see if we have any others.
Yeah, there's one that just came in that I can kind of talk to. This is more the level of how our Databricks writer functions. Essentially, the JDBC drivers for Databricks doesn't support writing. It only supports reading, which is why we have the staging location method. It's a little more trickier to set up. Of course, you have to either use a cloud storage location or Unity catalog. But there's a pretty big advantage with the performance. I've been
Yeah.
able to write millions of rows pretty fast because you're essentially writing out to a Parquet file and then just loading that straight into the Delta table. So it does have its advantages once you've got it working.
Yeah, and that's what I pointed out. That's exactly what the Databricks writer does, and I mimic that a little bit manually because I didn't want to first start the compute on my Databricks and then start writing. I just wanted to write because I want to write now and just sort of later gather everything which was stored. That's why I did it in a two-step process, but the Databricks writer does it in one file and then ingests it in the table.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's of course, and that's a very convenient way in which you don't have, you as an end user just need to use the writer and then it works. Yeah, and as said, it's golden. If you have your computer running, use that. Don't use my method. But yeah, I'm Dutch. I'm coming from the north of the Netherlands, and they are quite on the cheap always. So I count every second of compute.
Yeah, that is one thing to keep in mind. You're running the computes when you're reading and writing.
Yeah. So that's said. That's yeah. So thank you for answering that together. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. That works. Well, is that everything?
Yeah, I'm just taking a final scan through as well. It looks like we've gotten to all our questions. That said, we will leave things running a few minutes after we wrap up the webinar. So if anyone does have a question that they're still thinking of, feel free to drop that in and we will stay online on the back end for a few minutes after we wrap up. And if you think of a question after the webinar too, like we said, feel free to reach out to us directly, info@safe.com, or Martin as well. Maybe I'll just drop Martin's email in the chat again, just so people have that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, once again, huge thank you to Martin and Matt for all your time in presenting today's webinar, and Dan for joining us and supporting with questions. And huge thank you to our whole audience for joining us. We really appreciate your time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, have a nice FME. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.